the final game, Cowboys at the 49ers. So take a look at the betting as we have it on matchbook.com. Cowboys can be backed on the money line 2.8. I want to said that a few weeks ago in this matchup. 49ers 1.52. Cowboys the 4-point head start on the handicap line, and the total is 46, shaded towards the over. We'll go to you on this one, maybe back to you, Suuma, on this one, and set up this game for us. There's a broad agreement with the guys here. We do like a total play in the over, so we're expecting points.
Points. First of all, I find it very interesting that the Bucks-Cowboys game closed 45.5, and now with a better defense, yes, but also a much better offense on the other side, we are seeing a total of 46, which makes me thinking about it twice. But I think this total should be higher. It should be at least 47, in my opinion. I think this game sets up very well for some scores. To beat the 49ers defense, and we are still talking about defense, which is not that very predictive. We saw it the last couple of weeks where Jared Stidham had a great game against the Niners defense. Seahawks were able to move the ball in the first half until the game got out of hand. So it's not like only because you have an elite defense that you will never concede more than 20 points in any game or something. I think to beat the Niners defense, you got to have a good offensive line, and you got to be able to hit some passes deep. And I think that the Cowboys can actually do that. Haven't seen any news today on Jason Peters, but if he can play, the Cowboys will have their starting offensive line, and they actually have some dudes who can at least block the 49ers phone for 2.5 seconds. And Dak Prescott, there are some really wild stats when he's clean and when he's under pressure. When he's clean, he's absolutely cooking, and they might get a few clean pockets here. I think that CeeDee Lamb might have a big game out of the slot, and Michael Gallup might also see a few high leverage targets in this one. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm not giving Zeke Elliott more than 5 carries here. That would be absolutely bananas in my opinion. I think the way to attack this 49ers defense is get Dalton Schultz and CeeDee Lamb involved out of the slot, and then try to set up Tony Pollard with some screen passes, quick passes where he can collect after the catch. And I think that the Cowboys should be able to put up some points. And the Cowboys offense has been somewhat inconsistent. Dak Prescott has had a lot of turnovers, and turnovers are not always bad for a total, especially when we talk about two high-flying offenses where a turnover can also lead to decent field position. On the other side, I just don't see how the Cowboys defense can generate too many stops against the 49ers offense. Brock Purdy, I think the only caveat to him is that he has been extremely efficient on third down. We might see some regression at some point there, but it's also that the 49ers are like a top 5 offense also in the passing game on first and second down. The Cowboys play a lot of nickel on defense. They don't have 3 linebackers on the field often. They like to load the box, and when they do that, they're going to face a 49ers defense that is exceptionally well when it comes to 12 and 21 personnel. And I think the Niners, no matter how the Cowboys line up, they will be able to run the ball on them, throw the ball on them. The Cowboys don't have the cornerbacks outside of Tremont Diggs to contain Brandon Ayuk, who is having a monster season, just flying a little bit under the radar, I think, because he's not putting up like medium range 4-digit numbers on the season. But Brandon Ayuk should have a good game. Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. I think both offenses are set up for success here. And yes, I think that the total is a little bit too short. I would make it 47 or higher.
Okay. And Drew, you're in agreement with the guys here on the over. I know you've written down over 45.5, but you can get 46.5 still at decent prices.
Yeah, my fair side price here is 3.5, so slight lean towards the Cowboys at 4. My fair total is 47.5, so pretty decent edge to the over, because 47 is a meaningful number in NFL totals. The breakdown of who wins this game, I have kind of settled on. It's pretty obviously which pass rush is successful. And I think there's a decent chance that neither pass rush is successful here. And if that's the case, this is maybe flying over the total. But Suuma kind of brought it up. There's a huge, you look at what Dak Prescott did last week, and he was masterful. He was the picture of poise. He was making amazing decisions and just like kind of the superlative field general. And people are talking about it like he just decided to do that. Right. Like it was like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to play good today. And like, that was the reason he was so good. But to me, at least, it was the Bucs could generate no pressure whatsoever on him. And when he has time to operate and he has the weapons to work with, and Kellen Moore is giving him plus EV play calls, that Cowboys offense can absolutely score with anyone. So, that's kind of the key issue that I'm going to be watching in the first kind of quarter of this game is definitely number one, Suuma already mentioned it, is Jason Peters healthy, is the offensive line intact, because if you're getting the same quality of protection that you got last week, Dak Prescott is going to shred a secondary that I have huge questions about with the 49ers. The second kind of thought is, even if Bosa, for whatever reason, will point him out. If he's winning his 1v1, I liked some of the stuff that the Cowboys gave you a glimpse of last week about getting Dak rolled out of the pocket, and he looked comfortable doing that. He looked comfortable scrambling. Like, we haven't seen a lot of Dak scrambling this year. I think they were being a little bit protective, trying to make sure he didn't re-injure the ankle that he injured week one. And, him as a mobile threat in this game, particularly with how aggressive the Niners linebackers are, and if you can kind of give them some misdirection here, that should be a very effective way for them to sustain drives. So I look at this Cowboys team as potentially getting into the high 20s, and then the Niners are operating with just an absolute embarrassment of riches in terms of skill position players right now. Like, it's literally pick your poison. And there's one standout player available here who is at full health for the Dallas Cowboys, and it's Micah Parsons. And I'm assuming that Dan Quinn is not going to be an idiot and line him up against opposite Trent Williams. He's going to find other ways to get Parsons involved in the pass rush, and that could have an immaterial impact on this game because Brock Purdy has never really had to face a significant pass rush. And you want to see third down regression, it comes when Micah Parsons is in your face after 2 seconds after the snap. So it's if that is sort of the way that this game breaks, then the Cowboys, I think, are winning. But the protection has been pretty outstanding for Purdy since he's taken over. All of the Niners offensive linemen look pretty healthy and are playing very cohesively right now. And he has a safety valve in Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle that are probably two of the better safety valves you could ever ask for in the sport, let alone the quality of play you're getting from them right now. Deebo Samuel, untackleable. Brandon Ayuk, able to create separation against the Cowboys secondary that's exploitable. So both of these offenses, I think, are going to be pretty successful. The weather looks phenomenal. It's going to be a beautiful weekend on the West Coast, from what I can tell you. Nothing like what we saw last week, and nothing like what they're going to see in Orchard Park. So over for me was the look. Why the market came down so aggressively yesterday is not something anyone could answer for me. I don't know who in the world, thinks that they have a super strong angle on this under, but it's going to take one of these two defenses generating consistent and aggressive pressure. You look at the playoff game from last year, the entire outcome was determined based on pressure. Niners generated 16 pressures, 5 sacks. Dallas 6 pressures, 0. And that was the difference in the game, no matter how you want to replay it in terms of the scheming and the decisions that the Cowboys offense made and who they got involved. It was all about protecting Dak. And I think a good performance by the Cowboys offensive line puts them into the NFC Championship game against the Eagles.
Yeah, you set it up nicely. Even the warm weather, it's a massive game, playoff divisional round game. Rob, it's a team steam here on the over, so just add anything you can that Suuma and Drew haven't covered, which is a hard thing to do, I know.
Yeah, so I was on air with Drew watching Cowboys Bucs in the fourth quarter when this game started to open up widely, and we were surprised it opened on the lower side of 47. I make this above 47 as well, 47 being a key number in the NFL. I really see both offenses being able to exploit the areas of weakness in the defenses, which are the secondaries, really. And one thing about Brock Purdy especially, which has really worked to the 49ers' benefit, a lot of people can talk about the quality of competition and the fact that he looked, a little bit shaky in the first quarter against the Seattle Seahawks. If you go back to 2010, Brock Purdy had the 5th best performance in terms of EPA per dropback of any quarterback in the playoffs last week against Seattle. So yes, maybe a little bit shaky at first, but he looked a lot better down the stretch in that game. And what Purdy's really been able to do this year, and what makes him very different than Jimmy Garoppolo, is his ability to extend plays. And I really think that's a benefit against this Cowboys defense. If there's pressure, Garoppolo would be a sitting duck in the pocket, whereas Purdy is not. And you look at Brock Purdy, 85 dropbacks this season, in which he took 3 or more seconds to throw. On those 85 dropbacks, he had a 47% success rate. That's the 4th best amongst NFL quarterbacks. Jimmy Garoppolo, in that same span, this year, last year, he had a 35% success rate, which would have made him 24th amongst quarterbacks. So I think that's a big difference in this game. I do expect them to be able to extend plays, and Purdy does a lot of what Jimmy G does and just gets it to his playmakers, and they do the rest. The other side of things, the 49ers pass rush is great. Their defensive line is great. The front 7 is great. But we saw a quarterback in Jarrett Stidham throw it all over this team. Dallas will get the ball out of Dak's hands very quickly into these wide receivers' hands and to Tony Pollard's hands. They have a lot of skilled playmakers on this offense. So I'm a little bit surprised by this. Would not be surprised if both teams score into at least the mid-20s in this game. I would expect the total to go up, but I don't know why it's still here. And, books are taking decent limits at this point. So a little bit puzzling to me, but I'm with these guys. I like the over in this game.
Before I let Drew come in, the total is 1.47 because Dallas extra point kicking issues. It clearly was a one-off, I presume, Rob. But I'm not taking the piss here. But there is a very small amount you might have to factor in now.
We don't know what's going to happen in the kicking game, but if anything, I actually think that this might help the over. You might get a more aggressive Cowboys offense now in situations where they normally would have kicked. And when you do get the variance of, potential like giving the other team great field position as well, getting stopped, for example, at the 40-yard. Dallas would attempt a 56-yard field goal in the regular season. Do they do that now? They're probably going to go for it. And you either get it or you give the 49ers really good field position. So I think this actually helps the over more than hurts it.
Drew.
Yeah, that's a great point. Only question I have for Rob, people are saying, thanking you for betting the Bucks money line last week in order to get the Cowboys to win. They want to know, are you going back to the well? You were kind of softly making a case for the Niners there. What is the price point that you would buy a Cowboys win by betting the Niners money line?
So I will tell people, and this is true in the audience, I went back and reviewed. So I started doing content 5 years ago and picking games. My ATS percentage in picking Cowboys games is 74% since I started doing content. I usually have a very good read on them. Last week was a horrendous read. Don't get me wrong. I like the Cowboys +4 as well. I just prefer the over. You said it, Dan, in the intro of this game when you were talking about the money lines. You're like, we would have never seen this money line a couple weeks ago. It's true. Dallas ended the season really poorly, with honestly nothing to play for a while. Like technically they could have won a division, but they were basically cemented into the 5 seed for a long time. And the perception of these teams, or the gap, has widened in terms of market perception. Like this was not 16 of 18 weeks over the course of the season. There's no way either way, a team is laying more than a field goal in this matchup. And now we're getting
absolutely true. That's absolutely true. And to piggyback on your comment about the kicking game, now, maybe with the 3-point lead on the 3-yard line and under 2 minutes, they go for it, the touchdown, instead of trotting a field goal kicker out there to make a 3-point lead, a 6-point lead. Hopefully, that taking some of the decision making away from McCarthy will be positive.
Yeah, and Dak was caught on camera mouthing that we should have gone for the 2-pointer, which I thought was very rich. Now, to be fair, knowing fully well that the camera would have been on him at that point, but that's just Dak, I guess, Rob, isn't it?
I mean, sometimes these players just like they forget that they're being filmed 24/7, right? And they're just in the heat of the moment. And do you blame him? Like, who blames him?
No, he's right. He's right. Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, he's a bad teammate. Like, no, he's like he wants to win a game.
He's a good teammate. He's trying to protect his guy. You don't send him out there again.
Exactly. I mean, he just wants to win a game, but put yourself in position to game. As long as I don't see a quarterback draw with no timeouts left and 15 seconds in this game, like I can't handle another ending like last